I've been asked a surprising number of times by people because I'm homeless. For some reason, people think that being homeless means that you don't have any pressures. Like having a home is a lot of work and a lot of responsibility rather than somewhere to relax and store your stuff and make a base. I have a fitness tracker in my health app, and it records my steps, and I was just interested to see how many steps, because when I was provisionally diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and I switched DHBs 2 years ago when I came down to Canterbury from Wellington, Capital and Coast, I'd only gone through half a chronic fatigue syndrome workup, and chronic fatigue syndrome's a diagnosis of exclusion. So, I mean, there are a few like that where you can't, at this stage anyway, we're getting there, but we're not yet, as in, the world, specifically medical science, hasn't found a positive diagnostic test for ruling in chronic fatigue syndrome, but they check everything that could cause the cluster of symptoms, because it's a syndrome. It's not at this stage anyway a disease. It's a syndrome, and that cluster of symptoms are very telling in themselves, and I have all of them. But you still have to go through a battery of tests of all sorts, many to do with your endocrine system, and sex hormones and all kinds of things, and your nutrient levels and all of that stuff. And I did that with a very good GP in Wellington, and then she referred me to the public system, and I was waiting a long time. And anyway, it depends whether I say I have chronic fatigue syndrome. It sort of depends on the circumstances. I never mean to mislead someone to, that I have a diagnosis, definitive as such. A confirmed is more scientifically appropriate word, because confirmed doesn't mean what it in medical and science, it means in ordinary language. Diagnosis, but it walks like chronic fatigue syndrome, and it quacks like chronic fatigue syndrome. And what I do have a diagnosis of is exhaustion disorder, which is caused by stress, and I have a number of other health problems as well. So even though I have ADHD, and I definitely have the H, and so I do really crave walking, and movement, and I also find it incredibly good for my mind. It's proven that exercises, walking or, doing something else that isn't concentrating on a problem, can sort of push a solution through. And I've always found that. I found that at university when I was working on an essay, and on a kind of intractable point where I was having trouble defining a term or linking concepts or to a framework or whatever, and I'd just find, before I even read about it, this is an actual fact, that taking your mind off the problem is when the solution is generated. So, and I do enjoy walking, but, I've had to treat walking like I've had to treat alcohol or sugar or trans fats or cigarettes or whatever, and actually sort of cut down. So that 10,000 steps, which is fairly much the established recommended amount of steps for, the median person to take a day, that would go down a lot for me, because with chronic fatigue syndrome, and likewise with what I've been positively diagnosed with, you have a ration of energy you can expend, and that's mental as well as physical, and they affect each other in a cross way. So you can't just sit in bed all day and then work really hard on a problem, admin or whatever, because that drains your mental energy, and it drains your physical energy, and vice versa. So if you're resting, you have to rest. You really can't stimulate yourself in any way, your system. And and I've been it's interesting how many times I've been asked recently, or over the period of street homelessness, I suppose, what do you do with your time? And I think people are confusing homelessness with joblessness. Anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting to see what my steps were, and it's pretty shocking. Yeah, I'll show you. It's not good.